For the record, Jason does not want to talk about this and does not see this as a big deal, but we're going to discuss this next topic civilly and have a kind of debate about it because I do think it's important and talks about the insanity, absolute craziness happening right now in the New York City public school system. And I wouldn't even call it a school system. It's more of a slave indoctrination system, or now a woke slave indoctrination system, as we have this next headline here that talks about how teachers in New York City are told to focus on middle-class black students over poor white students in a training video for, quote, a racial equality plan. Now, the big outrage here for me is that this is an official Department of Education anti-bias training program that is costing the taxpayer $23 million. And it's a mandatory program for all Department of Education employees, with many people saying, hey, this is pretty ugly and divisive and doing the opposite of what it's claiming to do. And that's exactly what it is. As a student, I have my own personal experiences that I want to share in this video because I grew up in the New York City public school system as a poor white kid, and I'll just tell you the horrors of that in just a little bit. But before we get into this debate, Jason, we're actually going to be working together very closely very soon, either this weekend or the next weekend, coming up for, of course, Bilderberg 2019. We got a little fundraiser running up for that. You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, so we're hoping we're going to be able to at least be on the ground together. We don't know for sure. I did get my enhanced license, so Mexico, Canada, United States, I will 100% be there. Outside of that, won't be able to make it, but Luke will be there on the ground. Now, for those that don't know, one of our mainstream media contacts does believe it's going to start basically this Thursday afternoon when people start rolling in. We don't know that for sure. There has been no place that has been confirmed. One of our alternative media contacts is speculating it may be in Ottawa, Canada. Again, if that's the case, that kind of favors us, but I can assure you it's not going to be easy for even me and Luke on 1 or 2 days' notice to get there. We've made it about halfway to our goal. Thank you so much for those that just donated yesterday and all of those that have donated in the past. We're actually putting out an email today thanking all of you that have done so. And we got a bunch of anonymous donors. So if you can give $1, $5, guys, it really, really helps. And people are like, $3,000? Guys, I don't even think that will cover our bail if we get arrested. Like, forget about just, I mean, that's a real thing. Forget about just the travel costs and getting a hotel and whatever. We have our own gear. We're going to be spending minimum on gear. But if one of us gets arrested, hey guys, like, I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot in my savings. I can't be held in Canadian jail for a week. I don't know how my nieces get fed. So, guys, please, if you can, donate. And thank you to all of those that have. Luke?
Yeah. Jail's a possibility. I've been in jail last time, the last couple years ago with Dan Dix for simply asking questions there. And that's all it took for them to put me in jail. But that's a whole nother story. Let's talk about the proverbial mental jail that is the New York City education system, because there's a number of headlines coming out of New York City about this woke education system that we have that is completely backwards. It's financed by your tax dollars, and it's doing the opposite effect, even according to administrators, teachers, and parents who got to look at this anti-bias training. They say it's divisive, it's ugly. And again, they say things like, quote, if I had poor white male student and had a middle-class black boy, I would actually put my equitable strategies and interventions into the middle-class black boy, because over the course of his lifetime, he will have less access and less opportunity than the poor white boy. That's what racial equality is. That again, when you look at economics, that plays a huge determining factor in the upbringing of a child. And it's absolute lunacy here and absurd to see them treat black people and black students as victims while punishing white students who were underprivileged, especially in New York City, with very limited resources in that education system, indoctrination system, and it totally defeats the purpose of trying to help someone. And again, this is something where the New York City school chancellor, one of the head honchos, one of the people in charge of the education system in New York City, even personally believes and espoused and talked about and claimed that whiteness is, quote, toxic. This, of course, is Richard Carranza. He, of course, is the New York City school chancellor who not only demoted administrators for simply being white, but again, pushed out people for their skin color and replaced them with less qualified people of color. This is huge because this is a school chancellor of New York City pretty much creating worse situations, people who are less qualified to do the job better in an already constrained, crap-filled system that is abhorrent. I mean, I remember coming to this country, going into New York City, to a predominantly Hispanic, African-American community, being one of the few white people in there. There was no ESL. There was no English training. I remember just being abused, not only by the teachers, but everyone, just simply because of my skin color. There was no resources already. And now for them to take I don't think the resources improved at all. I mean, I saw a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I remember there was a kid who shot himself in the leg once when I was I saw the most craziest stuff that you could ever imagine in New York City public schools. But there was even a racist teacher who made fun of me for being an immigrant, told me to go back to my country, made me a laughing stock in front of the whole school. I remember just going through the worst traumatic experiences of my life. We're talking about shootings. We're talking about stabbings. We're talking about like the goriest, violent, craziest stuff you'll ever see in your life that I've saw and witnessed in New York City public schooling. And to see something like this, seeing that this problem's only going to get worse when already it was very bad when I was a kid. But that was also a different New York City. That was a New York City that was actually New York City. It wasn't this yuppified corporate Disney World bullcrap police state, autocratic bullcrap state that it is now. But it was still, it's a less violent place than it was before. But again, seeing something like this, how could we allow something like this to happen, Jason? To me, this is an important issue. You don't. I'm going to let you have the floor.
I don't think we're really in disagreement. I say fire the guy. It's a ludicrous policy, and obviously we should be treating all of our kids with the respect and attention they deserve to get them through this system. Yeah, it's terrible. It just doesn't shock me. The other headline that you didn't mention was the fact the guy said, I can't believe New York City isn't all liberal. Well, I got news for people. There are a lot of conservatives in New York City, and they're the ones making the money. And I don't even like to call them conservatives because they're usually neoconservative warmongers. I'm not trying to judge everybody, but there's also some people out there. Listen, it's a wide array. What do you got? 8 to 9 million people down in New York City in that region. So that alone is going to make it extremely diverse. Listen, the guy deserves to be fired. He deserves not to have a job anywhere else. He needs to get out of that sector because he has no business in the education sector. And I don't think we disagree. I hate the term woke. And I don't like racism in any regards. It doesn't shock me, though, because this is New York. The same thing is happening in L.A. We just have to find our own states to go to. And I got to get myself out of New York because, listen, this stuff seeps up a lot further than people realize.
But will he be fired, especially with him being so close to Mayor Bill de Blasio, who's trying to be the woke president of the United States? Again, just a total abhorrent loser, by the way. And again, Jason, it's not just him as a school chancellor. This is a DOE, Department of Education program. $23 million program that is mandatory. And again, you know how the schooling system works. You didn't grow up in a privileged, rich household. You pretty much grew up like me. We didn't have the best of stuff. I remember growing up in, I remember literally sleeping in the hallway. Cockroaches, bugs everywhere. As immigrants, there was nothing there. And to me, we have to understand that people seeing you differently because of your skin color and implementing these policies and taking away the already limited resources is something that should be dealt with. But you say he should be resigning. Doesn't look favorable.
I don't even think he needs to resign. He needs to be fired, not resigning. He doesn't get that opportunity. I don't want him to get some kind of a package. No, he should be fired. Look at it this way, Luke. This is some crabs in a bucket stuff. This is the idea that you can't lift somebody up without pulling them down. Crabs will get almost up to the top. They'll have that link, and then someone will pull them down. We don't need to pull down somebody of a specific race to raise somebody else up from that race. And if you read the quote, he's very intellectual about it, saying, over time, this is going to bridge the race gap, essentially. No, we bridge the race gap by not having one, by treating everybody equal, by paying equal attention to one another. So again, I don't think that we're in disagreement. I do think that this is a terrible policy. It just does not shock me that these policies are being done in New York City and California, and I think they're going to spread throughout the country, unfortunately, because that's the way of the world these days.
Well, it's a part of this woke culture that is becoming more mainline and mainstream. And it's important to understand that this school chancellor also held his own white supremacy culture trainings for school administrators. Again, if you look at schools, a lot of times people just rinse and repeat, just do what they're told because it's easy. And really, when you're putting off these divisions, when you're putting off really what are just pure racist policies that will end up hurting people, hurting our society as in large part altogether, you're really creating a huge disservice. And that's why I believe these stories do deserve our attention, because again, some people just go overboard just talking about woke politics and woke culture all the time, but when it actually is having an effect like it's having in New York City in the public school systems, we need to talk about this, because there does need to be something addressed. There does need to be something changed when people are seeing only people on their color and nothing else. Economic disparity is something important, is something that actually matters, something that actually affects people's developments and who they become as adults. And putting people down because of their skin color, because they don't meet your criteria of how they look like, is the most asinine, stupidest, racist, hateful, bigoted policy that you could implement. And it's having real life effects with poor white boys in New York City and white kids in New York City because of this man and this culture of absolute lunacy. That's why I wanted to talk about this. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section below. This is going to be a very probably divisive topic, but it's a topic that needs to be discussed. I see it my way. How do you see it? Let us know in the comment section below. And other than that, I got nothing really else to say. What about you, Jason?
One last point. I want to make this not about race. I want to point out that the leader of the New York City Parents Union, the president, said, and she's a black woman, Mona David, she said, it's completely absurd. They want to treat black students as victims and punish white students. That defeats the purpose of what bias awareness training should be. She nailed it on the head. If you agree with that, please let us know. Guys, we're doing 4 videos a day across 2 separate platforms. News for a Change and We Are Change. Make sure you're subscribed, ringing that bell for all the notifications, because now you can ring that bell and they don't let you know anything. Sharing this on social media, but most importantly, getting out there and being the change you want to see in the world.